Okay, this is quiz 8. We're going to start with problem number 2 on quiz 8 because I needed some time to write it all out. So the question had to do with putting these 5 numbers in order: 0, g prime of -2, g prime of 0, g prime of 2, and g prime of 4. So what we've got in this problem is this function that's g, and it runs like that. And what you've got to do is put them in order relative to their size. Well, everybody knows how big 0 is, but what's g prime of -2? This problem really is asking you to understand what the derivative is in terms of being the slope of the tangent line. So if you look at the slope of the tangent line at -2, which is what g prime of -2 means, the slope of the tangent line would be the slope of a line that would be something like that. It's inclined fairly large, I think. So, I don't know, and you don't have to worry about getting it exactly here, just relatively. So, for example, relative to 0, what is it? Well, a line that goes up is going to have positive slope, so this is positive slope. And what is it relative to 1? That's probably good enough. A line of slope 1, if m equals 1, that would be a 45-degree line. So this looks a bit steeper than that. So I don't know, you just could call it 2, for example. All right, and then just go to the next point, g prime of 0. What would that be? Well, the tangent line would look like this. Obviously, it's sloped down. It looks like a 45-degree angle to me, so I'm going to call it -1. Again, if you called it -0.5, -2, it wouldn't be so bad because, as you'll see, there's nothing much close to it among these numbers. What's g prime of 2? Well, g prime of 2 would be the slope of this tangent line, and I didn't draw it real well, but compared to the slope of this tangent line, it looks to me like this one is a bit less. Maybe this is at a 45-degree angle, so I might call this 1 the slope. G prime of 2 is the slope of the tangent line. And then g prime of 4, you're over here, and the tangent line there is still going up, but it's flatter. So the slope will be closer to 0. So you might say it might be like a half. So if you had to put these numbers in order, that would be, let's see, the smallest one would be g prime of 0, because that's a negative number. That's the only one that's negative. Then the next one is 0. Then the next one is a half, which is g prime of 4. Then the next one would be the 1, which would be g prime of 2. And then the next one would be g prime of -2. And that's 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that accounts for all of them. And that's putting them in order numerically from the smallest to the largest. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 1 is a really important type of question. It says, find, using the definition of the derivative, find the equation of the tangent line, or find any equation for the tangent line to the curve y equals 4x minus x squared. Not just any tangent, but the tangent that occurs at the point 1, 3. So when x equals 1 and y equals 3. Well, let's do a reality check here. When x equals 1, you get 4 times 1 minus 1, which is 3. So yeah, this point will lie on that curve. And what we want then is the equation of the tangent line. All right, for this quiz and for the first exam, you are not to use the power rule, the high school rule, whatever you want to call it, the shortcut for calculating the derivative. The problem explicitly stated, use the definition of the derivative. When you see that in the problem, you must use one of the definitions of the derivative. There are a couple, so you can pick which one, but you're not going to get any credit if you just come out and say, well, the derivative is 4 minus 2x and blah, blah, blah. No, you need to use the definition of the derivative. You will lose lots of points for just going straight to the derivative using the high school rule. Okay, so what is the definition of the derivative? You can have your choice. So let's just use the H form, I suppose. That's the first thing I thought of. So y prime, the derivative of y, would be the limit as h goes to 0 of, let's see, what this is, f of x, right? So just to remind you of what the definition is, it's f of x plus h minus f of x all over h, and take the limit of that as h goes to 0. Next thing you do is you have to substitute in correctly. What is f of x plus h? Well, what does that mean? It means you go to the formula for f of x, and wherever you see x, you replace x by whatever's in here, which in this case is x plus h. So you're going to get 4x plus h minus x plus h squared. And just to, I don't really need these parentheses here, but I'll put them in. So this is the first term. That's f of x plus h. Right? That's the meaning of f of x plus h. It's this function plugging in x plus h in place of x, wherever you see x. Now you have to subtract f of x. You need to put parentheses here, and then f of x. f of x is simple, just 4x minus x squared. Just copy 4x minus x squared. And all of that's to be divided by h. Simplify, we get limit as h goes to 0. Now, there might not be any help for it. You're going to have to multiply out some stuff here. So let's just multiply everything and collect terms properly. So we're going to have 4x plus 4h minus, now this thing, x plus h quantity squared, you should recognize that as x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. It's a perfect square. But you're subtracting it, so it's going to be minus all of those guys. So it's minus x squared minus 2xh minus h squared. And then we're subtracting that mess. So we get a minus 4x minus x squared makes it plus x squared. And if you did things right, you should be able to simplify and factor out an h to cancel off that h in the denominator. So let's see what happens. There's a plus x squared here and a minus x squared there, so those guys are going to go away. Here's a 4x and there's a minus 4x, so those are going to go away. Anything else? I don't think so. So what's that leave me with? Well, there's an h in every term, so why don't I go ahead and factor that out. So this is the limit as h goes to 0 of h times what's left. 4 minus 2x minus h, and that's it. There's nothing else left. All of that's divided by h, so this is the limit as h goes to 0 of, see the h's cancel, 4 minus 2x minus h, and that's an easy limit. No problems there, no 0 over 0 like we had at the beginning here. So this is going to be 4 minus 2x, because x doesn't do anything as h runs around, but h here goes to 0, so that goes away. Okay, so 4 minus 2x is the derivative of y, but it's the derivative of y at any x, or in other words, f prime of x, the derivative at any value x is 4 minus 2x. But I'm not interested in the derivative at any value of x. I'm interested in the derivative at this point, which is where x is 1. So that tells me that the derivative at 1 would be 4 minus 2 times 1, or 4 minus 2, which is 2. So the derivative is the slope of the tangent line, and that gives me a slope of 2. So now I know the slope, I know a point, 1, 3, I can write down the equation of the line instantly. Y minus the y value equals the slope times x minus the x value. End of problem. Okay, and that brings us to number 3. In number 3, we are asked to figure out what function is expressed here where this is the derivative of some function. So here's the expression. The limit as h goes to 0 of the 4th root of 16 plus h minus 2 all over h. That's supposed to be the derivative of something. That's supposed to be the derivative of f at some number a. And the question says, what's f? What's f of x? So fill in the blank. And what's a? Fill in the blank. Well, you need to recognize the derivative of f at a whenever you see it. The derivative of f at a is, by definition, the limit as h goes to 0 of f of a plus h. No x's here because I said a, not x. F of a plus h minus f of a all over h. It's just like f of x plus h minus f of x over h. It's just that x is replaced by a. All right, so this is the definition of the derivative of f. So the questions are, what's playing the role of f up here? What's playing the role of a? Well, there's this fourth root business, and this a here occurs right there maybe. So you've got a 16 plus h. So you're trying to fit this pattern. So this fourth root term right there has to be the f of a plus h. And the 2 has to come out to be f of a. So what could possibly be the function f of x in this case, where you're going to end up with this here? Well, it looks to me like you've got to have a fourth root in the problem somewhere. And furthermore, it's f of a plus h that's this thing. So maybe it's just the fourth root of x. Let's just see what happens if you do that. What if f of x is the fourth root of x, what would f of a plus h mean? Well, for a function, you just replace x by whatever you're plugging in. So this would be the fourth root of a plus h, which is almost exactly the same as that, except that there's an a here and a 16 up there. So would that mean that maybe a is 16? Would that work? F of 16 plus h would be the fourth root of 16 plus h. That works. And what about f of a? What would f of a be equal to? That would be f of 16, and the definition of f, at least our guess as to what f is the fourth root of whatever we plug in. And the fourth root of 16 really is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So this works, and so the function that you really want is this guy, and the a that you need is that one. And that's it for quiz 8.